morning once again, everyone. And first of all, thank you. Thank you for joining in on a Saturday in the morning. I mean, especially those who are in corporate or even in the academics also, taking time out from your busy schedule. We'll go with a quick, I will introduce all the panel members and also a little bit about me so that it will be easy for us to understand who are they, and then eventually we'll move on to the first panel discussion. Uh, my request to all the participants are, if you have any question in between, of course, you can put it in the chat box or you can raise hand and ask, or else park it at the, after the initial discussion gets over, and then we will have a open discussion forum. I would say it's not a one way, as I have mentioned everywhere. It's not a one way talk. It's not a GAN session by. Of course, we have four GANis, but we understand that from the participant sides, you are also equally knowledgeable and experienced. So it's not just a one way talk. We will have a open discussion, common discussion, and by the end of the day may not be a concrete solution, but at least we should have some roadmap to address the problem statement. So to start the introduction, my name is Amit Ganguly, associated with IT industry for over 30 years now. Started as a trainer, moved to the developer role, followed by pre-sales, learning and development, and then business lead role. So I changed my hat multiple times. I've spent almost 15 years with Accenture in various leadership role or senior position. And I'm very proud to be associated with MIT for a co-branded training and certification program during my tenure in Accenture, and that helped me to visit their Boston campus as well. Um, so I moved out of the corporate life in 2020, and early 2021 started my own venture named Blessed IT Solution Private Limited. And as my background says, we provide IT training and also recruitment services. So now, uh, the most interesting part. Let me introduce our panelists one after another. So I will go with the, I would say, seniority or number of years of experience. So first, we have Professor Dr. Bhanu Pratap Singh, who is currently the Vice Chancellor of Maharshi University of Information Technology for last 5+ years. He has blended experience in both industry and academics. Started with Birla Yamaha Limited as manager way back in 1991, uh, and he had been there for 9 years. Then he moved to the academic world. He worked as associated professor and professor in MIT Moradabad and then NIET Greater Noida between 2000 to 2016. Then he joined director in Shankar College of Engineering and Technology, Ghaziabad, and then moved to MIT Moradabad as director for total 3.5 years. Then he was also associated with Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Technical University in different capabilities before joining Maharshi University of Information Technology as Vice Chancellor in 2019. So please give Professor Bhanu Pratap a big hand. We are eager to listen
Thank
to
you.
you from about your thoughts, sir. Thank
Thank
you for taking your time out. Now, our next panel member, another stalwart, Mr. Abhay Singh. He's a seasoned HR leader with 31 years of experience. He has a Master of Arts degree. I mean, for Professor Bhanu or Dr. Bhanu, I have not mentioned that because Doctor anyway said that he is a PhD holder. Sorry about that. So, Mr. Abhay Singh is a senior HR leader with 31 years of experience. He has Master of Arts degree under his sleeves. He started his career with Godfrey Phillips India Limited in 93 as HR executive. Then his journey continued uh, as regional staffing manager, human resource partner at Motorola, South Asia rewards and staffing manager at Intel, HR director with Dell, before he joined his last organization, Applied Material, in 2008. He took voluntary retirement from there in June 2024 as Senior Director HR. His expertise in all-round HR, staffing, and compensation will help us to understand the challenges and the advantages that an IT organization has in terms of getting fresh computer science engineering grads. So again, please give a big hand to Mr. Abhay. Thank you for being here again. Thank you for your time. Uh, Moving on, Dr. Rakesh Agarwal is our next leader. He again has a versatile profile, managing corporate, universities, or academics for building skill and talent. His expertise lies in developing learning framework, competency models with skill assessment, learning journey, lateral learning program, and fresher induction program, utilizing a blended digital learning approach to build capabilities. His journey started with Infosys as manager education and research way back again in 1997. After spending about 7 years, he joined Accenture as vice president. I mean, Accenture call senior manager, but outside world vice president. So that's why I put it this way, of learning and knowledge management. He was the architect of setting up the L&D function in Accenture. Then he moved to HSBC as Dean of Academy, then JP Morgan Chase as Executive Director Technology Training, before he joined his current organization, Standard Chartered Bank, as Dean. As his name says, he holds a PhD in computer science, published 130 plus papers. Please give a round of applause to Dr. Rakesh, and we will be hearing from you about the best practices of fresher training program in large organization and possible hacks that can be applied to small or medium-sized IT organization to make the training cost effective, but producing the best result.
Thanks, Amit.
Thank you. Thank you again for coming in. Finally, uh, this is the time has come to introduce our seasoned leader of IT services industry, Mr. Vasu Puranik. He comes over 26 years of experience. He has a diverse set of experience in delivering complex transformation programs for clients, running large-scale application services organization, to leading strategic initiative in developing emerging competencies and differentiated practices, that is industry solution factories, software production platforms. Vasu was instrumental in establishing people CMM practices in key competency areas of business analytics and industry practices and production platforms. Vasu has also contributed in leadership role in driving the innovation charter and inclusion and diversity programs. His career highlights also include being a project manager of the prestigious UIDAI Aadhaar program. By education, Vasu holds a BTech degree in electrical and electronics engineering from NIT Warangal and has a PG CBM from Accelerate Jamshedpur. So Vasu, we will hear from you. How can we make fresh engineering grads project ready from your experiences? So
Thank
again,
you.
give a round of applause for Vasu for being here, taking time out. All right then. So let us first go to Vasu first to share your views about what the organization usually expect from a fresher when they join the organization, and especially, along with that, not especially, when we talk about small or medium-sized organization, how they can achieve productivity goals if they choose to hire freshers. I mean, many of times they feel a little reluctant hiring freshers. So, if you can help us to understand what all things can be done in a better way to enable them or help them to make them productive. Over to you, Vasu.
Thanks, Amit. Thanks for welcoming us and the introductions. And good morning, everyone. Really excited to be part of these discussions. Like Amit called out, we are all seasoned practitioners here, all of us, right? Some of us are probably have been invited as the panel members, but I think if you can make it interactive and learn from each other, that will be great. So I would encourage your views, comments, critiques, right, as we have this discussion. Like it always happens with corporate folks, generally we start off with a PPT. So I hope it's okay, Amit, if I share my screen. I had a
Oh,
couple of
yes,
slides
please,
just put
please,
together.
please, please. Sure, please.
Okay. So let me know when you can see my screen. Uh,
Yep, we can.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah. So I think Amit talked about freshers, entry-level talent. I'm sure all of us were entry-level at one point in time, right? So we always had that belief that we can we can change the world, right? So that belief has taken us so far, and that's true for our younger generations as well. So no brainer. I think we all have that belief. I'm sure. All that I think this discussions is about with changed scenarios. How do we continue to adapt, right? So I just try to put together this. How might we, statement. Um, if you see the how might we statement without colors is the same, right? But what we see in the colors is what is the continuum that we are going through, right? So if you saw the industry maybe 5, 10, 15 years back, in the last couple of decades, we were all focused on delivering projects and services, right? That's how we honed our skills. That's what we taught the people in the industry, and to leverage technologies, right? Information technologies. They were either your custom softwares, different programming languages. To then came the era of packages and platforms in the cloud and digital and so on. And then who do we deliver this? We all said, okay, client A, client B, client C, right? There are these big corporations who we all looked up to as software developers, project managers, as leaders, saying that we are delivering to so and so client or so and so customer. Now flip it, fast forward into 2024, and as we were joining this meeting, I think Amit observed that a lot of the AI companions also joined along with us, right? The digital companions joined along with us. So and we all have witnessed that, especially after COVID, that the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas are a lot more adept with the technology even compared to our generation, right? So technology is fast changing, and they're adapting it. So therefore, the focus on technology in the current area, I'm calling it as a data and AI, right? And what are we delivering? We are delivering personalized experiences, right? So it's not like the technology is becoming more human-like, right? It's becoming more human-centric. So it is actually shifting rightwards. In the past, as end users, we were supposed to shift left and adapt to the technology, right? A particular application is written this way, a banking application, and so on and so forth. We were supposed to be trained as end users to be able to adapt to that particular application or technology. So gone are those days. I think it's all moving into on demand, how I want to experience or interact with the application and the software is my choice, right? So the software, the technology has to adapt, right? That is how it is fast evolving. So therefore, how might we deliver personalized experiences leveraging technology? While the cloud, the digital, the platforms, those will continue to be there. But then how do we bring the next emerging trends around data, AI? And within AI, it is very fast changing, right? I'm sure we are all following the trends there, from a predictive AI, now generative AI, and now we are talking about agentic AI, right? From a large language model to a small language model. So there's a lot of this back and forth calibration happening in the technology space. And therefore, how do we curate all of that to deliver an end user persona, right? Ultimately, an end user as a, if I have to take some examples, if you're in a sales function, it's a sales representatives, right? If it's in an HR function, it could be your HR partners, right? The field HR partners. If you're in customer service agents. So now how do you develop those agentic AIs and the digital solution to be able to deliver that productivity. So this is a big picture. I just want to start off with bringing back ourselves to the discussion point. What does it mean in terms of interlevel talent? Look, this is not a problem that only our inter-level talent is faced with. This is, in fact, I would say, much more compounded for our experience resources, because unlearning and learning is all that more difficult. We all know that investments in learning, development can be very, very significant. If you look at our mid-level, mid-career sort of talent workforce out there, so the entry level is much more advantaged because they can be molded easily, right? And some of these things. Therefore, there's a lot of benefits and advantages in investing in this. How do we go about doing this? I'll probably let my other colleagues comment on this in terms of their expertise in how they have looked at time to time. This is not something that's happening now. Maybe 5 years back, same statement would hold good. Maybe the ones in colored text may have a little bit changed, right? Likewise 10 years back, likewise 20 years back. So that's what it is. And I also wanted to a little bit share these insights, to say that, like I mentioned, the software or the technology is moving or has moved away from instruction driven to intention driven, right? So earlier we were all told, okay, this is the input, this is the output expected. This is how you write your syntax, this is how you write your subroutines using C, C++, Java, and so on and so forth. And this is how it is expected to behave as an output, right? So that was all instruction driven. From there, it has moved to intention driven or emotion driven sort of a technology, right? So now it's all adapting. Like I mentioned, it is very more human centric. So now the job of the people involved in this industry, we call it information technology, software industry, or we may call it any different name in the future. It's all about rather than developing systems and software, how do we craft it, right? How do we do the software craftsmanship in a way that we are able to deliver in the new normal? So therefore, I classify this into tangible and the intangible, obvious and not so obvious, right? The obvious ones, we all know that technology and the skills that we need. In the campuses, we can talk about, I'm sure the students go through different programming sort of language sort of for trainings and things like that. But then there was a focus on industry know-how. How do we make sure they learn a particular industry where they're operating in, right? Whether it's an insurance, telecom, banking, consumer goods, retail, and so on and so forth. I think each of the corporations, made, small, big, all realize this, and some amount of work has happened. But I still think that is a gray area as an industry practitioner. And in the project delivery skills, which is all about what type of projects and services are you delivering? Is it development? Is it system integration? Is it application maintenance, application management, and so on and so forth, or infrastructure services? So as a professional, we need to learn that. So they were all the tangible ones and the very obvious ones. I'm not saying we need to move away from that. In addition to that, that's the reason you see a plus sign there. In addition to that, how do we hone these intangible skills, in the industry, right? For everyone, but in particular entry level. And like I keep mentioning, they bring that energy, they bring that advantage of the fact that we can mold them the way we want, right? And they're quite up to date when it comes to the latest trends, right? In the technology, that's a great advantage. Unlike us, we were not so advantaged, right? So now how do you combine the technology skills and also enable innovation quotient among the entry level? How do you enable a teaming and collaboration, right? Those become equally important as well. Likewise, in addition to knowing the industry, how can they develop deeper insights in the respective customer that they are working on? Let's say a particular company has a large enterprise, it has different functions, marketing, sales, HR, payroll, so on and so forth. Depending upon where they are operating their projects, how can they develop deeper business insights to be able to identify what is the value creation possibilities out there, and then eventually deliver a value, right, to an end user, right? That's what it is. If you see the continuum in the bottom there, just to summarize, I'm calling them as, from a project services model, we moved into repeatable product and platform based solutions. And now we are in the era of how do we personalize and deliver experiences and delight, right, to the end consumers. So that's what I wanted to uh, for now open it up and then say, while we can talk about do we need a training curriculum that needs to teach certain latest trends and technologies and programming languages and things like that, some of the soft skills. But if you have to put it holistically as a big picture, this is what comes to my mind. So with that, I'll take a pause here, and I'm sure we can keep visiting back on some of these concepts. But with that, Amit, back to you.
Thank you so much, Vasu. Thank you. It's really insightful and it speaks about your experience and expertise. So now let me request Abhay to share your experience about hiring the fresher and what are the processes involved to make them fully productive. Also requesting you to kindly share your thoughts on uh, how can we basically by the end of the day make them organization ready with minimalistic costs. Over to you, Abhay. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Amit. Amit, firstly, I must thank you and the rest of the panel members for having me out here. It's a privilege, and I'm really happy to be here, not just to share my views, but also more to also hear from what other eminent speakers in this group are. So thank you for that. So, folks, when Amit introduced myself, if you recall, he told you that I come with about 31 years of experience, slightly more to be honest. One thing I didn't tell you was prior to that, I was also in the army for 5 years, so I've got quite a varied background. And in my HR, and I'm going to focus more on my HR background out here. Uh, I've had the privilege of working in almost all the functions. It could be staffing, it could be rewards, what people call comp and benefit, and obviously what is known as HRBP, the business. That's what I really ended with. But there's one function which I was very biased towards, and which really very close to my heart, and which was staffing. And I was in Motorola and in Intel. I was a regional staffing leader for India and Asia. So I've been very close to this function. So when you talk about staffing, and Amit, when you asked me to, I'm going to share a few things which I believe I have seen in some of these companies I worked in, some of the challenges and some things that we do different. I'm sure there are a lot of other best practices that each of you all might have your own respective organizations. So please feel free to jump in if need be. Okay. So talking about, every organization hires two sorts of people. There'll be what we call new college grads, I'm sorry, from directly from universities, and we hire laterals. Laterals are people with certain degree of experience, we hire them. Okay. But I think there is no company that I know of, or at least where I have worked in, which does not hire a large number of the population from campuses. Hiring from campuses is paramount because that is the way every company builds their organization and builds their resources for the future. So if you look at any organization, all organizations are built like a pyramid. The bulk of the people you require are the people at the bottom of the pyramid, people with 1 or 2 years experience or new college grads. So what new college grads also bring to the table, in my mind, the most important thing is they bring in the diversity and they bring in the new blood into the organization. Because sometimes if you do not rotate your people, you have the same thoughts coming in again and again. When every year when you're bringing in new people, you bring in the new thoughts, and which helps in what we, and I think Vasudev, you mentioned about intangible thoughts. I really like that. Innovation and collaboration. I think new college grads from colleges bring in that innovation. Innovation comes when there are people who come with different thoughts. Okay. So any company, like we used to hire approximately 25 to 30% of people from campuses. Now, are there challenges to campus hiring? Of course there is. But so we have to be aware of it, and we have to also see how we can mitigate some of these challenges. Okay. So some of the challenges I have tried to put them under 4 buckets. The challenges. One would be the turnover. One would be the skills that they come with. One is the availability of students, and the last is cost. So let me start with the turnover. So in turnover, there are when I say turnover, I mean attrition. So I hope I'm using terminology we all knew. So in turnover, there are two types of people. There are the first category of people who reject our offer, which is all right. These people, which I can live with that. Because our offer is not attractive or a technology work and is they don't think that's exciting enough or different reasons. The other category is, and which is really the worrisome for all employers, is the no-shows. So what I mean by no-shows, again, is a term that we use I use in our company, is people who accept your offers and do not join. Now, this is a huge challenge for us because these people, till the last day, we do not know whether they're going to join or not. And invariably, the pattern is on the last 2 days, they'll switch off their phones. So when we have an induction, we're calling them, they are not picking up the phone. So that in any company would be about 7 to 10%. So that risk is high. So that is a huge challenge for us. The other challenge that we also have in terms of turnover for hiring from campus is we have a lot of infant mortality. So when I say infant mortality, I mean we have seen that within 2 to 3 years, a lot of these new college grads tend to leave to go for higher studies. Not all of them. There are, but we have that the percentage of attrition for new hires is slightly higher than lateral hires. Okay, so the turnover is the biggest challenge that a company should look at, and I'm sure we are all aware of that. The other things that I have personally seen is the problem of skills. Some of the students, especially from the tier 1, tier 2, and some of the smaller colleges also, academically, they are very bright. They have all the skills required. But my personal experience has been, I've been for hundreds of campuses for, as the head of the selection panel, the application of knowledge is not missing. Unfortunately, in Indian universities, we yet focus so much on rote and we don't focus on the application. So, and their understanding of the corporate world is zero. That's number one. Number two, in terms of skill, also is the communication skills. Now, especially in multinational companies where we all need to work with global teams, all said and done, English is a very important skill. In fact, overall communication is very important. These children, these kids that come from colleges don't have that communication skill because that's not part of the curriculum. So though they read and study in English, their English skills are weak and communication overall is weak. So that's something that as companies we need to look at. Okay? The other thing that we've also seen is while there are hundreds and thousands of colleges in India, the availability of students is yet scarce. And there are two reasons for it. One is in the high-end colleges, you have a lot of these consulting and the high, niche product companies that go, which pick up the cream at insane salaries, if I may say so. So, and the other is a lot of the service companies come and pick up the whole class. Infosys, TCS, they hire by the thousands. So, when we go, sometimes the availability is not there because they've already had their first placement. Okay. The other category that I look at is cost. People, when you do the costing, going to campus is an expensive, proposition. Because whenever you go to campus, you go with a minimum of at least 7 to 8 panel members. So there is cost involved. The travel, they're staying for 2 days, all that. There is a certain degree when you put the whole thing together, the cost is pretty high. Okay, so these, to my mind, are the challenges. Now, what are some of the things that I believe we can do a little different and which has really worked for some of the companies I worked in, especially the last company? I have seen hiring new college grads first as interns helps a lot. And we have seen that now a large percentage of hires, and a lot of companies do that, they hire them as interns. So which means they stay with them for 6 months, after which they're converted. So when the student finally joins the organization, he or she can hit the road running. They are aware of the culture of the company, they're aware of the technology. So these are things that, there is another big company I know, again, an American company, which has 100% of their hires are through interns. So they will hire interns, then they'll convert them. So I think that is a huge, it's been working very well. The other thing that, to save the time on campus, well, like I said, going to campus is a very laborious process. having online technical testing and behavioral testing. So there are companies who do that for you. It's all online. You don't need to be there. So they do it for you. So which means they have done the first level of screening and you get the results. So when you go to campus, all you have to do is the PPT and you do the uh, physical interviewing, right? Because all the rest of the, you know, the hard work, the dirty work, if I may say so, has been completed. Okay? Uh, the third thing, and there are many more, so I'm going to restrict myself to three, is, and as like I said, we have a lot of high attrition because a lot of people want to go for higher studies. I think one of the good solutions that could be companies could adapt is having a very good tuition assistant program for students, where in our company we used to do that, provide them as high as 2 lakh rupees every year in reimbursement in case they need to, so they can go and do their higher studies. Higher studies could be in the form of you allow them to go on a sabbatical or you allow them to do an online course. Highly successful people want to do that. Some companies also want to do that, have done is uh, a lot of these students want to go abroad to study, especially in the US. So this company I know of actually allows them to go study over there with a contract that they will join the office in the US. So these are all things which companies are doing to retain this talent, which is now leaving for these many reasons. Okay, so these are some of what I believe are challenges and the mitigation plans. There's so many more, but I'm going to restrict myself to these three, which I have personally used and they work very well for me. Thank you, Amit.
Thank you so much, Abhay. Again, as expected, very valuable, very insightful. Lot of different new ideas, new thoughts. Now, let me move to Dr. Rakesh to share your experience in terms of in-house fresher training and what are the possibilities or possible best practices for a small to medium-sized IT organization should adopt. Who for whom having the in-house training again, it's a huge. There is a huge cost associated with it. I mean, be it infra cost, be it payroll cost, and all sort of things. So, what do you, Dr. Rakesh?
Hey, thanks, Amit, and thanks also in a way setting up the context. It helps. Uh, I think so. As per my introduction and as per my experience, also, I have been always in the training space. Either it could be on the freshers or into the laterals. Now, let me just focus on freshers as of now, until and unless some questions comes up on the lateral training. Now, I think the times have changed, and as Vasu was mentioning, we do have seen the change in time. 20 years back, what used to work may not work today. Uh, the the kind of learnings that we have started encouraging people is both digital and also more on the hands-on side. Uh, we just can't come and teach people the data structure, that how to write code, this is an integer and all those things. I think so those are all self-driven and many things are app. So things have changed drastically. The way we have designed the freshers training is kind of putting up a problem statement initially and ask them to solve the problem. It could be a simple problem and then build that problem in a big way. So gradually you start building something on the data structure, then you put files, then you start seeing the open system. And while we do this freshers training, it's important that we use the agile and scrum methodology from day one. What does it mean? Simple. Forget about the words. You need to make them groups of four, do every morning stand up, what has been done, what needs to be done, and all those things have to be checked as if what Vasu expects them to be working in the project. So the project experience needs to be brought in very soon in their career. Give them projects which are actually from the delivery side of the organization, not that a car has four wheels and how do you do all those things. Those are all gone, or the college education system or college library system. So I think so moving away from that, more on the practical side, more on the domain side, picking up a problem and then building on that helps the freshers gear up a lot. Now, um, the point that Amit has mentioned me to focus also is that how can you reduce costs, and especially for smaller firms and organization where the numbers are not high. See, while I was at Accenture, we used to run 64 classes in parallel. The intakes used to be around 8,000 during the campus hiring time. So it used to run like an industry in 6 locations, 64 trainers, some backup trainers, all those things. Now, for smaller organization, that's never expected to be done. And moving from Accenture, while I have been to the bank also in the last part of my career, we have seen the numbers being around 200 or 300. But of course, the smaller scale may not require 200 also. They may require 20, 30 also. So I think so. My thinking and approach would be to have something like a blended approach, put up some coaching style in the sense someone should design the program for the 25 grad. And now I'll go back to where Abhay left actually. While they go and pick up the students from the campus, it's important for us to engage them. So pick up the names from HR. HR will be happy to give their Gmail or whatever email and start conversing with them. Start doing the pre-reading part right there. So suppose you require Java. So for me, any technologists need to know programming anyhow. Without programming, there is nothing. You can talk about AI, you can talk about automation. Everything is based on programming. So give them all those things that you expect them to come. And when they come and join you, start from there. So even if you're a smaller organization, either you outsource this something completely to someone else to get it done for you, and they do the pre-reading, but you should be always a part and parcel to the game. What is the domain? And I wish that in case you outsource it, you should always be in that space. That is, you just can't give it up to someone and just think that the students will come complete code. You should go and talk to them. You should talk about the projects which are coming up and give them the projects also in the same line so that they can work on those projects. These projects will actually help them to know the organization. I'm not talking about the culture part, but know the way the organization works, the terminology which is being used. So in the very early morning, have these calls. Every week there should be a meeting with someone from the business side to talk to them. How are you feeling? What do you expect? What's going around? It's not about the feedback of the training. Otherwise, see, sometimes back we used to give lunches and food also to the graduates. They used to put comments on that the food is not good. Everyday sandwiches are not good. I don't think so we are looking at those kind of feedback. Feedback is what have you learned? What do you expect? And do not give them less work. Give them homework, enough homework so that they continue working for 14, 16 hours. In fact, I had a rule with HR very clearly, don't enter my space for 3 months. 8 to 12 weeks, they are my people. That is, they are in university. Just assume that they are in a university. So they will work 14, 16 hours, Saturday, Sunday. And believe me, this part we start telling them before we hire them. And as soon as we hire, we tell them, the feedback which comes after 2 months or 3 months, based on the kind of boot camp that you do, is it only the full stack one, or you just want to have something on cyberspace also, or on the AI/ML, which would increase the size of your the course duration also. So students have come back and said that was the best part. That was a very, very good part. They are youngsters, and as Vasu said, these are all freshers. They have enough energy. They have enough talent. Just require. Make them in groups from the very beginning. Let them struggle. Non-IT, IT, they learn. They learn. Give them assignments. Next day morning, it's going to come. Stand-up is going to happen, so they need to speak. So I think so. For a smaller organization, they should always feel not to outsource it completely, be part of that outsourcing. And if you bring them, you have to do all those things very well. And it should be a structured, organized training. Nothing to do with that. You start with the foundation, build the foundation, and then go into the various streams. Like to me, of course, full stack has been the core. So I always say full stack, do the complete full stack, put the React JS, put all your Java and all those kind of important things which people struggle. They'll say, no, no, I'll do in Python. It's not the time to do Python right now. Understand the core. Okay. So go through the Java. Once upon a time, we used to say, of course, C++. So, of course, Java is far simpler than C++. So start from Java, get into React.js, let them start building application, and then go to your AI or in the automation or in the cyber space, or it could be anywhere that you. So testing, sometimes people feel it as slightly objectionable. So rather than testing, make it automation or doing something very very important which the organization may be requiring to do. So looking at the various websites, the organization, how do you make it more productive? What could be going wrong? So it's a part of testing, but don't make it testing look like testing, because people say that it's a monotonic. The last part, Amit, I'll leave the thoughts and we'll wait for questions. Is once they come out of the training, ensure that they are rotated. Just do not leave them, because as Abhay mentioned, 2-3 years is their time that they live here, or they go to various higher education and they start looking for jobs also many times. So in order to engage them, start giving them additional skills. These skills that you have given are part. Now you get into the AWS or the Azure clouds also. You can do it in the beginning also, but you can put it at the later part also. Put up a curriculum for them for a couple of years, or at least a year, put the curriculum. And ensure that if someone is doing in full stack, after a while they move to AI, they move to cyber. So at least there should be 3 rotation with 3 managers, different managers. And today at Standard Chartered, I have made it this last 5 years, we have made it point that the graduates will choose which project they want to go. It is not you are choosing the student, the graduates will choose which project they want to. Of course, there are challenges which come. No one wants to go to areas which are not that productive or not, but then we need to challenge the managers that you need to continue to build that. Absolutely, Director. Thanks, Amit. I'll stop here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rakesh. Again, very, very insightful from your experience. Um, Now, there is a reason I put Dr. Professor Singh at the end, because he represents purely the academia part. So, after hearing all these things from his side, he can perhaps enlighten us that what all things are already happening in the most of the universities from his experience. What are the areas are good to have, where he feels that a collaboration between the industry and academia will help. But Dr. Singh, before I go to you, may I please request all of you to switch on your cameras? I mean, it looks like we all are those who are with camera or video on. It looks like we are sitting in a maybe I don't know, a place where a lot of tombs are there. Only the name black tile with a name written in white. That looks very odd. Thank you, Dr. Prakash, for switching on the video. So, unless you are driving, kindly switch on the video. Yes, Professor Dr. Singh. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon to everyone. It's my pleasure to be a part of the gathering. As Abhay sir has also mentioned about the hiring of the pattern of the MNC, or what are the problems with MNC for the academia. As per, I think there is a pattern in last 25 years in that the student go for higher studies. It may be for the MS, or it may be for the MBA in India or abroad. There is a possibility they do the higher study after the experience of near about more than 20 or 25 years, it may be more than 15 years. But recently there is a trend set up. Every student wants to do their MS, MBA after the year of minimum qualification of industry as a 3 years. So each and every student who wants to do their MS. In that condition, there is a possibility, as Abhay sir also mentioned, that that industry can do for the sponsorship program for their higher study. It may be in India, it may be in the abroad. There may be a possibility of major retentionship in each and every industry. This is a major challenge in recently, because every student, he thinks that if he is doing in IT firm or it may be in the non-IT firm, he wants to do their PG program as early as possible, as the minimum requirement possibility for the MS or MBA. It may be 3 years as a industrial experience. So this is the major challenges in nowadays. So if the industry think about the sponsorship and other type of conditions, it may be better. Another thing that as we are discussing about the communication part, Ambassador also mentioned that in communication part, English or there is a personal communication, and there are different type of communication is mandatory for every student. But major challenges nowadays is much more coming in future, that even IITs are nowadays are starting their UG program in Hindi, even that local language. It is very difficult that in future, if any Hindi graduate from IIT or it may wants to go to the MNC, in that condition, there is a such type of a condition in arises that just like if you want to go to in Germany, we have to learn the Germany language. Same matter, there is a major part of that we have to learn the English language for the joining or the MNC company, because in the recent trend, as we see, majorly, and then CBSC and ICSC student go for their English communication part, but a UP board and a different type of a local board in Bihar board, they generally join as a simplest language, their local language as a Hindi part for the undergraduate, even from the IIT or even from non-IIT. So in future, it is a very big challenge. As my point of view, it will come in for the MNC or for the student, also for the academia also, or for the different type of a category that they want to join for the MNC. As we expect, if we discuss about what we expect from the industry, there are major challenges from the industry point of view. The basic requirement for industry can be any academic institution can expect that IT industry can support academia by providing skill development programs, internship and mentorship for both faculty and student. It can include offering specialized training to enhance skill, creating real-world project opportunities through internship, and providing guidance and industry insight through mentorship also. Because as we think, as I have worked in an industry also, we cannot see that such type of a platform is available in any industry, so that any academia can approach. He and she can approach only for the HR part, but apart from the HR part, there is no such type of a platform or on their portal or any on their website that any in the academia can approach to any industry for their mentorship, for their internship part, for their mentorship part. So these are the major challenges. Participate in curriculum advisory board to align academic program and industry needs. As in our university in last year, as we started in UG as a NEP program, in that part we have started a category that in our board of studies we have two experts from the outside, one expert from the academia and other expert from the industry, from same academic or same industry field. So it is very good for that we can develop a good type of a, because for any type of a institution, what are we are creating the contents, what we are delivering or what we are processing to our student, or what are the conditions for our student in the finishing school also. So if our content in good, automatically we can go or we can process in the second step. Contributing to the development of course content and materials, it is a very challenging task to any institution. If we industry can collaborate or give an opportunity, because recently UGC have started a platform for the industry person as a professor of practice, but there are number of professors as a practice part from industry are joining the institution, but they are that this is the initial state. Providing access to academia regarding standard tools, software, and platform. what are the industry is going on with their platform or software. It is very necessary if we can cope up or we can align the institution or academia at par level. It is very beneficial to academia or institution or we can say a student. They can learn what the study or what is the going on in the industry, or that is we need two or student that is going to join in next 1 or 2 years. If we are any industry or any institution cannot do the alignment or we cannot map this such type of a thing, and then in that conditions, what are we have to made our student in which category, in which platform, in which software tools. So that is the gap that is also very essential to minimize. Another thing is that there is an ample amount of opportunity for the startup. If the industry invested in university startup, it is very good for the in that condition also. And we can say parenting on research project to drive innovation, as sir were discussing about the innovation part. If we parenting can be done on academia, it is very good. In our university level, we have started such type of a thing that for the our UG level or for the our PG level, for the or we can say our for PhD student, we have started such type of a things that every student or every research scholar have to do the industry real life problem or market, or we can say as a society real life problem, so that we can contribute something to the society, or we can say you can contribute something to the industry to cope up this type of a condition or a real life of a project. In our university, each dissertation by any student, and they have to give the email to their society part that what he and she have developed or what contribution had made in for the society. In his dissertation, we send a soft copy to him. It may be some type of a some sort of a solution for that. That may be beneficial for society or industry also. Providing a student with hands-on experience through internship and cooperative education, as we have already discussed earlier. Providing real project for the student. If the project for the student also, it may be in the different type of a condition. It may be some, we can say as a very small project for just like a coding. If we get a list from any platform or any website of the any industry, or we can do some sort of a project to, or we can give some sort of a project to our student, it is very beneficial to our student that he can or she can learn about the real project what the industry demands in future or after 1 or 2 years. Another thing, especially as we talk about the small scale or we can say medium or IT firm, especially small to medium IT firm face higher project delivery cost when hiring junior level engineer due to several reasons. These firms have limited income and cannot take significant risks with less experienced staff, as the success of initial year define the company future trajectory. Small firms often lack the resources to invest in training and development for the junior employee. Additionally, junior level employees typically have limited expertise, while small firms require multi-skilled worker who can handle various aspects of the work. Consequently, company bear a heavy price in terms of cost and efficiency. So in that condition, for the small or medium type of industry, it is very difficult, or we can say a difficult task for any academia to train our student in multi-skilled category, because we can provide we have the limited resources, but we can talk about the multi-skilled category. For the small scale industry, it is very difficult, because in the large scale industry there are number of skill requirement, it may be one or two, so or he can or industry can train them. But for the small scale industry, it is very difficult for the industry and academia also. So this is a major challenge between the small scale industry and academia. So we have to think about that, or we can make a such type of a platform through the government, or we can say directly industry to academia, because there are number of programs are going on in academia, but they are the collaborative program. For just like IBM has a UG program in different category or different computer skills also, but they are a one-to-one program with the institution. It is not open to all. So in that condition, if we provide some sort of a such type of a platform to academia, open to all institutions, so so they can do their project work, they can choose in their internship part. It will be very beneficial to our student also or in academia also to map or to minimize the gap. Thank you.
Wonderful. Acha, Professor Dwivedi, Sanjay Dwivedi has raised his hand. Sure, sir. Please. Please share
I
your-
just wanted to respond to the Professor BP Singh's very valuable comment to share the experience of firstly teaching in academia, specifically in Myra Business School, where the intake of our MBA students was from diverse backgrounds. As we all know, in India, we have people who may come straight from the village, highly intelligent, very good at their work, especially technical work and math. But as far as the key skill now required, and there's a study by Mercer which says by 2030, 15 key skills, and communication is the most important one, whether it's written, spoken, or behavioral, what you bring with your body language. So with Myra, we actually had to implement a 6-month program where we coached the students in basic spoken English skills so that they would be productive at the workplace. We further augmented that with getting them to be in Toastmasters International, which have polished up their public speaking skills. And we've also been part of a training organization that works with MNCs, where the campus to corporate fresh intake, that vulnerable segment which inevitably 10% people leave to do higher studies or maybe even do another job. Again, what we found is because the type of student is similar, we had to do the similar sort of finishing school almost in terms of getting them to perform professionally at the workplace also. The heartening news, I'm just bringing good news, is that eminently trainable. So even in a 2-year MBA program where everything is busy from 7:30 a.m. till night, squeezing out the odd hour, etc., for career services and finishing school yields huge dividends for the student in terms of employability and being interviewed, etc., etc. Some of the places like MICA, where we have actually coached their students, 100% placement rate, and so on and so forth. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with the group. Thank you.
So, Professor, I just want to add, or you spoke about this corporate to campus. So I love that point because as part of our induction program, we go through an 18-week program for our freshers or new college grads. We actually have a full week. We call it campus to corporate. And it is not just communications part of it, also things like what are some of the etiquettes of a corporate life? What do you wear? What are business casuals? How do you come on time? They come from colleges where things are a little bit more open and everyone's having fun. They think that's what life's all about. By the way, in corporates also is a lot of fun involved, but there are also some regulations, some discipline. So I agree with you. This is very important for people to be, and it'll be great if people come ready with that information, which today, unfortunately, a lot of colleges don't focus on that, especially engineering colleges, for good reasons, I suppose. So what happens is the corporates have to invest in that so that you get these people who are technically sound but can adapt easily to, especially when you're working in global teams. I like your point.
Thank you so much. In fact, we were solving for the employability problem at the business school. So the business school itself decided to invest in this and do it for 6 months because see, 1 week is great. And of course, you can teach professional etiquette, etc. I've lived and worked abroad for 23 years. So I was, as a chartered accountant overseas, they actually trained us in how to speak at the BBC or whatever else. But 6 months is what it takes, is what we found, and there are apps that can be used. There's various apps where the student can practice themselves without feeling judged, in terms of their style of speaking, etc. Thank you.
As this topic is on, I would just like to add. So I've been doing recruitments for past 20 years, and I've done a lot of recruitment when I was in iFlex Solutions, which is now Oracle Financial Services. And we used to do a lot of fresher recruitment. We used to go to colleges and do a lot of recruitment activities. And probably more than 50% of the candidates, because I was a part of recruitment team and I used to do a lot of interviews, more than 50% of the candidates are rejected because of the communication skills, because of their attire, because of their, the way they talk. So that's the very key, for corporates to hire, and that's the mandate, that if they can't communicate, if they are not dressed properly, because these are freshers which we have to do. Other things, the technology part, other things can be trained. But these are the things when you have told the students that you're coming for interview, you have to be dressed properly, and that's the challenge which we had faced when we were doing the campus recruitment. So this I thought I'll just add to the point when this topic has been discussed. Thank you.
Beautiful point, I think, and final point from my side on this is that all the corporates, I'm ex-Deloitte and all of that, so we hire for attitude and executive presence. We train up for skills, whereas at university we're training for skills mainly. So that's there. But thanks for your point.
Thank you again. Thank you, Mr. Puneet, and thank you, Sanjay ji. Mr. Tarun Agarwala has raised his hand. So yes, sir, please.
First of all, I'd like to congratulate you, Amit, for putting this discussion together. It's very few platforms that we see hardcore industry practitioners and hardcore academics come together and talk. And we can see the outcome in terms of the quality of points provided by each one of them, from Vasu to Abhay ji, Rakesh ji, and Singh Saab. Right? So the second thing that I want to say is that currently, if we look at what's happening in terms of the development of AI, I would say currently we are in a transition phase, transiting to the most probable likelihood that tech skills may not be as much as required, and as Vasu was probably pointing towards, or maybe it's an and, then the skills of empathy, skills of communication, interpersonal communication, the science of rational behavior in interactive situations. And so when we talk about training people getting into training talent who's gonna get into industry, I think our focus is gonna keep increasing on the softer aspects or the softer skills than hardcore tech skills. However, without hardcore tech skills, then it's probably going to be an anarchical situation for the talent. And that's why it is probably incredibly important to look at social dispersion. And that's my third point. That is, the industry probably has to start hiring more freshers, train them, probably have a CSR initiative to say, maybe when I train them, they might leave us still. There would be attrition because now they are trained and they might want to go and work with other organizations. And we don't, and so if we give them sabbaticals as well for education, when they come back, they might still leave us. But that's a CSR initiative in the true sense that you train people so that in society you have people who are ready to be functional in whichever stage they are in. And so we want to bring in more pressures, disperse that opportunity for each one, for more people, rather than create blocks where people who already have, and so have haves and have-nots, who already have the ability, keep on winning, and those who don't. So whether they come from a Hindi belt or a different vernacular belt, or because they don't have a certain tech skill. So we bring all of that information, all of that knowledge to ensure that we bring in more freshers and train them wherever we need to train them, be it at education institutions or during the induction, and give them those 3 months to be trained without thinking whether they're going to leave us or not. Hardest thing to do, by the way.
Tarun, may I add something to that? I mean, because I just love your points, So some of the things that I think corporates should do, and a lot of responsible corporates are doing that, are having a very robust UR strategy, which is university relations strategy. Now, the university relations strategy does not and should not stop at hiring. That's the easy part of it. Seriously, it is how can I influence curriculums? How can I, maybe invest in labs? How can I have my managers go and talk about some of the actual application of knowledge? How can you invite their professors to come and spend time with us? So, and I agree with you that you're building the ecosystem. It's not necessary all these people come join me. but you're building an ecosystem which will, maybe help the whole industry. I'm from the semiconductor industry, so which is yet in India quite a nascent stage. I mean, over and above VLSI, I mean, if I look at equipment manufacturing and actual manufacturing, it's in a very nascent stage. So I think I agree with you. We corporates need to do this. It's a very hard thing to do, but it's an important thing to do as a long-term strategy.
Right. And I'm trying to find answers through game theory to see how corporates what could we teach corporates in terms of, well, where does this bargain really lead to win-win, both for corporates and the society as a whole.
Thank you, Mr. Tarun, and of course, Abhay to filling in. Mr. K.K. Vakchandani, you have raised hand before Mr. Rakesh Menon, so sir, please.
Yeah, I'm very pleased with whatever is being discussed, and especially because, as you know, I decided to move in this direction of the effective communication and executive presence. So, in my experience, what I have seen is that it's a two-way effort which needs to be put. Even for companies, they have to, like very rightly put by Professor Sanjay, they have to come forward, do this so that their employability or the ROI eventually becomes better. And this connects to a very, very simple point of that, the one who takes more risk is the one who reaps more benefits. But are the organizations really doing it? That's the question, and that's the inclination I would want to promote. From the side of people who are just getting ready, they are the ones who are ready for the more. Do they have the inclination? Are there organizations who are willing to put in that effort to make sure that the mode which they want can be used, and more importantly, for a longer period of time? And hence, I think this group I like because the inclination is on the right side. Now, having defined the objective, I think we need to come up with steps of what we should do, and maybe help each other do that. So that is the only thing I would add, because when I started in 1992 as a medical rep, I did not know that this can take me so far. And this is what I would want to promote, that when people start doing it, that's the time to give them those tools, skills, personality, and ability to impress people. Thank you so much. Thanks for bringing this up.
Thank you, Mr. KKB, for adding valuable point. Mr. Rakesh Menon, you are next.
Sure. Hey, Amit, thanks for organizing this, my friend, and rest of the people. So I come with a background of leadership training because I'm a leadership trainer, and I do research on leadership models at an organization level, how it can be applied. And I specialize in a model called systems thinking. Some of you might be aware of that particular model. So I apply systems thinking as a perspective to the leadership. So that's what I do. And now what happens when I am going to the industries is that from the top down, this whole thing applies, and then it drills down to the last end. And there are certain aspects which needs to be groomed right from the day one of an employee. That's when over a period of time they'll be able to scale up and take the positions, right? So now this whole idea of leadership as a concept is typically from the mid to senior level is when it is taken up in the organizations. And sometimes it fascinates me when I see that, hey, at the induction level, it's not yet started. Something very similar to when we say that, hey, why we don't have soft skills in colleges and it's just confined to 30 days program instead of like 3 years. Why can't we have a curriculum developed for soft skills so that by the time they are out, they're ready for the industry, right? And especially the generation gap that can be addressed through proper soft skill training. Similarly, in the industries also, when they start right from the day one, why can't we inculcate the leadership, aspects along with the rest of the technical aspects that they obviously has to do. This is one major thing which baffles me, and anyone in our group, if we can throw some light around, why do you think that it is not yet put in practice? That would be really nice. And yeah, any other questions? I might come back later.
Great point, Rakesh, if I may add. I know some of the organizations have, as part of their core value system, right, defined ownership and stewardship as one of the key core values. So which in essence means leadership is not a function of just the senior-most people in the organization. It's a responsibility of everyone, including the entry level. So they can lead the organization in a certain capacity, right, irrespective of their role and level. So how do you instill that right from the beginning at a grassroots level, even at home? Why should it all start from even from college or campus, right? It's how they are brought up, how the parenting happens and things like that. So it could be a vast area, but long answer short, I think if you're able to bring that sense of ownership, accountability, and empower them. It's not just sufficient to just say, hey, you are accountable, but I think that empowerment is also equally important, is what I believe. How do you create a culture within the organization, a sense of empowerment that they can feel, so that they can behave as owners and leaders and accountable for their work, their outcome, in whatever capacity it could mean, right, given their role definition. So what I've seen is in teams, it could happen in pockets in large organizations, right? Certain teams, certain projects imbibe that. But how do you sort of make it contagious, or how do you make it pervasive across the organization and across industry? Since we are talking as a sort of cross-functional sort of practitioners here, so how can this make it? How can we make this happen, right? So I don't think it's just limited just to a corporate or to a college, universities, but it's a collective thing. But then I fully agree. I think among the intangibles I mentioned, maybe I did not call that out very explicitly, but that's an important aspect. So you can teach them technology, you can teach them domain, you can teach them some of the other communication etiquettes and things like that. But ultimately, if they're not hooked on to the common objective, right, a particular project, particular organization is focused on, then there's no point, right? And the turnover discussion we had in terms of the attrition, etc. So how do we make sure that even after giving all of those enablement, there's a stickiness, right? So
Yeah.
so those are all sort of bigger challenges that we'll have to deal with. But if you're able to instill that leadership qualities, ownership qualities, right in the beginning, I think our chances are better.
Absolutely. In fact, also just a light point to this, what you have told. One of the problems that we have seen and which we are trying to crack for many of the organizations is the toxicity. We know about the corporate toxicity, right? It's very prevalent. I mean, much more than what it used to be 10 years back, 20 years back. Today, because of the boom in the startup ecosystem and the competition involved, the people elements are very less of importance, and more emphasis is given on to competition, getting the targets met and stuff like that, because it's all about money at the end of the day, right? And about the investors. Now, what's happening in this whole run is right from the top management, the toxicity in the organization has drilled down to the HR level, which is very, very, very dangerous. Because earlier we never used to have toxicity at the HR level. Just imagine HR being the spoke or the pivot of the organization who can connect with external people, internal people, all the resources, top management, middle management. They are the kind of spoke, right, compared to any other function. They deal with people face to face. Now, what I have seen is the HR is not able to contain it. They're overwhelmed with too many things on their plate, which is as per their roles and not as per their roles. Now, what's happening is it's all coming out, and it's coming back to the employees as very toxic culture. And that plus the current Gen Z, Gen X, cultural fitment, it's becoming a complete chaotic combination, which organizations are actually struggling to come up. It's not surfaced out, it's not evident from outside, but deep inside, many organizations are actually struggling. I'm not talking about established organization. I'm not talking about 50-year organization, 100-year organization, or 50-year organization. I'm talking about organization which is like 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, but have grown in volume just because they have investment. But cultural fitment is totally missing out. So just a food for thought, but I'm also trying to figure out,
Sure.
But thanks.
So if I may add to this, so while starting Empinetics, which is an organization trying to scale empathy, finding ways to scale empathy, we wanted to attack specifically this problem itself. That the biggest problem that we would have as we progress into the future is not going to be of hard skills, or it's not going to be of technology. It's not going to be people not knowing machine learning, so to speak, but of people knowing whether they, how to really empathize with each other. And empathy is not easy. Empathy is hard because it exposes you, it makes you vulnerable to be taken for granted, to be exploited. And so, how do you really manage that vulnerability while creating a win-win situation? And so, with currently at Narsimunchi Institute of Management Studies, where I teach, we created a curriculum for trimester to teach MBA students games of empathy. So we have picked game theory as a fundamental baseline through which we can really teach them negotiation, of course, because empathy is all about then understanding the other person and negotiating a win-win outcome. And then taking the research, I'm a psychologist, so we take research from what's happening in the area of emotions. How do we understand emotions? Unfortunately, the industry still has been talking about those six types of emotions, which was by Paul Ekman, but that's already redundant now. And so the new concept, which is with empirical evidence that emotions are constructed. So we take that, we use game theory, and we're trying to at least teach the MBA students who are going to be leaders of tomorrow to understand how they might deal with people within the organization, not just people within the organization, customers, partners, stakeholders, and even their own personal lives. Primarily, what we're teaching them is that you will learn everything in terms of strategy, but if you don't really know how to learn how to empathize, protect yourself while creating win-win outcomes, nothing is going to work in the long term. And the world is moving at a speed now, which was unfathomable when we were in your age. So at 40s, the way when you reach 40s, or the MBA students, when they reach our age, the world is going to be absolutely unrecognizable, most probably. And I think, and so we're trying to now take this, what we're teaching to MBA students there, to corporates and say, within your organization as well, whether you have freshers or whether you have tenured people, what they need to learn is this, how to deal with each other. And so we don't really want to make this a problem of a department, be it an HR or the CEO's office. This has to be a problem of every individual. But who's going to be really ones who are going to facilitate? It's going to be leaders, HRs, L&D, CEO's office. All of them have to really enable this.
Brilliant, brilliant.
Thank you, Rakesh and Mr. Agarwal, for very relevant point. Mr. Bejoy is raising hand for quite some time. So over to you, Mr. Bejoy.
Yeah, thanks, Amit sir. So Rakesh's point as to why this has still not become, an important criteria. I mean, it's bang on, right? So as a senior program manager in the industry, I have sat on many interviews where we are also recruiting entry-level engineers, and the hiring managers in their checklist of what you need to check for seldom have this as a point. Are they good at communication? Are they good at soft skills? One of the reasons they often say is because they are not needed to really put out any formal communication out there, whether it's an email to some of the higher ups, executives, or anything. So in one of the startups that I worked on, what we did as a group was consciously create that as a company culture, that the manager need not take the onus of every time putting out that email or whatever, right? Give some chances to the core team members also. It's okay. Their language at that point might not be up to the best standard that you might want to. And they might take a few more sentences to kind of reach to the point of the message they want to convey. But the more you do, the more they'll also understand that this is a skill that we should invest on, because we are being asked to send out these things. Once something becomes a need, a lot of people find their own way to upskill, and then it becomes a company culture. So I think while we talk about a lot of the other things, a lot of the onus is on what the company culture is, what the managers want. You don't want always the leaders to be the single point of communication. Delegate a bit, let the teammates, even if they're entrants, do some formal communication, be a little empathetic. And I think Tarun was mentioning about empathy. Be a little empathetic about certain grammatical mistakes, certain sentences going wrong. It's okay. Confidence builds over time. It becomes a need. It becomes even a good point for them that, hey, we are communicating to some of the seniors. It's time that we may invest a bit more in this aspect of our learning also. Very soon it becomes a company culture. So the onus also lies on the immediate leadership, I would say.
Arun, I just want to, one of your points that, I mean, the whole thing of empathy, would you not agree with me that empathy also comes with a feeling of inclusion and, you know, because empathy, you generally don't have empathy is when someone speaks a different language or someone looks different from us, you don't. So honestly, I think most organizations, at least organizations which are worth their salt, have a very strong inclusion strategy today, inclusion diversity strategy. So it is happening. It's not that companies are blind to the fact that people need to be open to different ways of thinking and things like that. I'll give you a great example. In my last company, we had invited a transgender to come and have a talk. Believe me, it was so, I mean, people almost, there were almost tears in people's eyes when they said, what is the life that they go through and why have they chosen the life that they have? But that's how you build empathy. So I think empathy comes with also building a culture of inclusion. And companies are doing that quite, they're quite focused on it.
Sure. So here's the thing. It's we have to differentiate between empathy and sympathy, of course, and
Completely, true.
And most times inclusion is a great way to build empathy because then you can put yourself in the other person's shoes.
Exactly.
Now, what I'm saying is that in most cases, we because empathy can be so diverse. You're holding the door for someone, random acts of kindness, that really following that path can be incredibly difficult because you don't really know when are you failing and when you're not failing. But more to the point of the discussion here is that what I'm seeing is that the conversation has spanned towards what sort of training, what sort of readiness do we need to provide to the talent who are supposed to be in the industry. And we are saying, all right, when we are first of all, we need to bring in more freshers. To bring in more freshers, we need to ensure that they are trained. What they should be trained on? Well, we're in a transition phase, so they should be trained on tech skills, of course, and they should be trained on
soft skills,
on the softer skills. And so maybe for empathy as well, we don't want to just leave them to figure themselves out, or when they see a few examples of people of different cultures, they would be able to then empathize with them. We probably have to provide a template as well for them. Maybe that's all I'm trying to
No,
say.
I think I agree. I'm just saying that people are, I think,
Yes,
companies are very conscious about this today because
It
it's.
is, it is.
it
In
has
fact,
been it has
if
been
you
a
see DEI, yeah, it's been added with belonging now, right? Of late, DEA is not just diversity, exclusivity, and inclusion. Now, belongingness has been added, and that itself implies the importance of empathy and related feelings. So,
Okay, we are on the top of the hour. So, any other question? It's brilliant. I mean, fantastic discussion. Fantastic. It's no longer as I have expected, or kind of my wish list was. It should not be a one-way communication. So, fantastic interaction. Any other question or any other thoughts, uh, either from the participant or the panelist? I mean, Dr. Singh, maybe Dr. Rakesh, Vasu, Abhay, anyone.
No, I would say, as a concluding thing, I mean, thank you for bringing us all together. It was a lot of learning for me, honestly. So a lot of these things we deal with on a day-to-day basis. We do take some actions, but a lot of these things are still in the bucket list, right? So how do we solve for it together as stakeholders? A great discussion debate. So thanks for pulling this off.
Thank you, Vasu. Uh, Dr. Bhanu.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Dr. Rakesh. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry. No, wonderful discussion and very fruitful. I think so. My point would be just leaving behind everyone. you have the contacts of me from Amit. And anytime you want more details on fresher training or lateral training, you can contact me via Amit. That's all I would leave there.
Thank you, Dr. Rakesh. Bhanu sir, any thought from your side?
No, sir, thank you very much. If any opportunity or anything arises from the industry side, I will coordinate with you, sir, in future. Or you can guide also us, or you can visit our campus anytime in the Noida campus or Lucknow campus. It's very privilege to all of us. If you, any one of us, or anyone can come to or wants to come, we can put a session to that person also for the relevant student. It may be very wonderful. We can do the same for the all any one of you, sir. You can welcome in any campus.
Absolutely. And I would just intervene in between. I'm born in Lucknow, but I have not seen Lucknow. So that would be a good opportunity for me to see.
So we have two campuses, one in Lucknow and another in Sector 110 in Noida. We
Okay.
can talk through
Yes,
Amit
sir.
sir.
No, thanks.
Definitely, sir. Definitely, sir. Dr. Sadish, Nanda Kumar, Vijay, Dr. A. Prakash, anything from you guys? We have not heard you. Any thought? How we can help? How any thoughts sharing that how we should change things? How should we behave? I mean, I also consider myself as from the industry mostly. So how should we or what should we do to help you? I mean, anyone per se. Again, Mr.
I
Vijay
think
is also from industry. Yeah, please.
just a quick thing, I'm not from a training background. I've been doing recruitments for past 20 years. I've worked in both corporate and agency side. So what Mr. Abhay has said, the few challenges, the attrition, skills, availability, the cost. Now, coming to lateral hiring and fresher hiring, so we always used to look at the numbers, whenever the projections are that there are projects is coming around and we have to hire in 200, 300 employees. We'll go and blindly recommend to our business that let's go and hire freshers. You have a turnaround of 2-3 months, give them the training, and whenever the numbers are there, that's the ideal way of getting the numbers. And whenever there are fewer numbers, then we go for laterals because obviously attrition is there in lateral hiring. It's around 25-30% is the industry attrition in lateral on the lateral side, and in the fresher side, it's around 40-50% are the attrition is. Skills and availability. Obviously, the availability of laterals are a little difficult to hire because these are the people like Mr. Vasu said. It's always easier to mold employees when we hire freshers. It's depending on our requirement where we have to put them, what skills we have to, what technologies we have to train them. And it's difficult for doing learning and unlearning for laterals. The skills definitely depends, availability depends on how soon we need to get these people on project for our customers. Communication skills, as I said, that's the key. Obviously, you get market ready when you hire laterals. You have to do a lot of efforts when you do the fresher hiring. So the key point which I want to make is whenever we do the hiring for freshers and laterals, whenever we see that numbers are huge coming up or to be deployed for the customer, we go for fresher hiring. We go to campuses, we do our numbers, we do the hiring. Whenever we see that the numbers are on the lower side, we go and the first choice is go and do the lateral hiring. So it's easier for us to do the interview and put them ready for the customer. So that's what point I want to make when it comes from the recruitment, when it comes from for the numbers side when we do the hiring.
Absolutely, Mr. Menon. I mean, what I am thinking honestly is one possible approach Say, for example, let's imagine, now our number of I mean, attendees have gone down because we have kind of overshot the time very quickly. Assume that uh, Abhay, since I'm taking Abhay, sorry, since you have already moved out and retired, imagine that you have started your IT organization and things are going very well. And say you are growing pretty fast. We have crossed say 50 or 80 headcount mark, and you are further growing. So if you decide to go for campus, one possible thing perhaps can be is either directly by the organization, or if you feel that will be too much of overhead, take help from a third party agency who has the expertise, who has the right people in right places, who will help you. Selection will be done by the company. The curriculum, program, training, what they should learn, what all they should learn, so that they become productive, project ready almost immediately after coming. If all these things are created, and if on the other side, if the campus is ready, any of the engineering colleges which you feel has the right talent, in that case, when they're in the last semester of the training, this kind of, semester of their engineering, 8 sem. So this kind of training program can run in parallel. Advantage for the organization is, of course, you're not paying salary during that period, so your payroll cost is kind of reduced. Yeah, training cost will be there. That anyway would have been there if you do it in-house kind of thing. And even your infra cost, the space, training space, and all these things, that will also be saved because they are still in the campus. And once the training is over, as per your crafted curriculum, you do the interview, final technical interview, and figure out how much they have learned, and then pick them up the right set of people who really qualify. In that case, perhaps you might have to train little extra number of students. But since we are saving money in different pockets, then perhaps it might be a win-win thing overall. All right, then. Uh, Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. And it's really, great to have you all, so many stalwarts, of course, on the panel members, and also on the participant side. Almost everyone has plethora of experiences. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time, and thanks for making yourself available. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Amit, for putting this together.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, Dr.
Very well done.
Thank you.